Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Securitron M34SCF. This is a Senstt Maglock. It is the year 2020 right now, and this is a discontinued lock. This is new old stock. May not sell one again. They probably won't be available the next time someone needs one, but I wanted to archive at least the data that we have regarding it. So let's start with a visual tour of the item, and most likely, well, we'll talk about why you're possibly looking at this video. Here's the business end, obviously. This is a Senstt, which simply means it has a single pole double throw switch inside of it, which is really just a magnet that's in here, as far as I know, in the face, somewhere here. That changes the state of that switch when what they call the strike, or I might call the armature, is brought here. That armature is going to pull that switch, towards it, changing the state. And the bottom line is that's why there are 5 wires. You need 2 for power. Okay, you're going to need red and black for power. I'm pretty sure you're going to have white, green, and yellow. Sorry, white, green, and orange, they call it, for your Senstt. So that's your Senstt, those 3 wires that are there. Then you've got your 2 for power. Real simple. We'll go over it. We'll go over a quick dimensional review of the business end of this entire device. Overall length, about 9 3/4. Overall height, about 1 3/4 inches. Overall thickness, about 1 3/16 inches or so. The strike, or the armature, about 6 3/8, about 1 3/8 inches. Thickness looks like it's about 7/16 of an inch. This weighs 4.5 pounds, and it includes accessories: thread lock, the MOV, and we'll go over what that's for as well, and then of course your screw package, or your fastener package. Now, why are you looking at this? Let's take a look. Let's talk about it now. Why would you be looking at a face mount Maglock? If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, so let's talk about what this is. Let's do a visual tour first. Obviously, you're going to get the magnet. So first of all, this is what is called a face mount, meaning rather than attaching it from the underside, you attach it through the face of the unit. The difference is, and we'll look at a couple of diagrams in terms of how that installs in the installation instructions, but Maglocks are generally mounted on the push side of the door, right? So it's going to be mounted to the underside of the header, then the armature will be mounted to the face of the door. The door will come closed and make contact like this. Well, what if you were mounting it on the pull side of the door? So what would happen in that instance is you would likely mount, the magnet on the header. Okay, so just in your mind's eye, think of a cross-section of a door and frame, a head detail. Mount the magnet on the face of the header on the pull side. The door is closed. Now imagine in your mind's eye as an offset bracket that mounts to the face of the door and then comes up in a Z fashion, and then the armature mounts to the inside of that Z so that it will come and close to the face of the magnet. So if you have an in-swinging application and your hardware's on the inside, and yeah, it does happen occasionally, you're going to need a face mount. Making it work in a non-face drilled application, I suppose, could be accommodated somehow with weird angle brackets and whatnot, but you ideally want a face mount model. Okay. Now again, to touch back on the wiring, we do have our power, red and black. Because it's low voltage, it's polarized, meaning you always run red and black together. You wouldn't separate them, or you can use the current will flow in a circuit like this. You just have to make sure that it's always moving in the same direction on this wire, on one of the wires. Actually, current flows backwards. It's a weird explanation when you look, or if you study the science of electricity. you might think of the current going in that direction. It's actually electrons moving in the reverse or direction that pushes that current so that we think that it moves forward. The other 3 wires, again, are for our single pole double throw switch. So, and I don't recall what wire, accidentally hit the pause button. I don't recall what wires are what. So, common is going to be white. Okay. Common is our white wire. Then you're going to have your normally open and normally closed wires. And you'll be able to, a fun experiment to do is to take your continuity tester or your multimeter and take that magnet, you know, and place it on here. And then you can check for continuity between the common and then the what would be normally open or normally closed. And you'll know exactly what is considered, you know, the open and closed condition of that circuit based on the position of the door is the bottom line. So then we have our armature or our strike as they call it. This is going to be mounted to probably an angle bracket or whatever you're installing that to. That's going to be through bolted. The fastener for that is here. Let's actually go through the fasteners. We have a couple of Allen drive machine bolts. That's going to be for the body going through or into the header. Before you get there, though, you're going to have a couple of what would be called blind nuts or riv nuts, or I guess collapsible nuts. It's going to you need 2 of them, obviously. One of them is going to come with the tool already installed. So what you see here is when I remove the riv nut, okay, this is the tool, everything here. You drill the hole, push this in, bring your tool, and then tighten with an Allen wrench, and you'll collapse that bolt, that riv nut, onto the thickness of whatever you're installing it to, your hollow metal frame, your aluminum frame. You keep tightening until it completely collapses. And the installation instructions say, be sure you're pushing forward so that it doesn't creep out a little bit. Lots of forward pressure and tighten that down. Once that riv nut is collapsed, you'll do it the second time by removing the tool. Okay, everything down here with the bolt is the tool. You will certainly have a couple of caps for the body that are going to allow you to cover off your installation so that it looks nice and clean. Okay, then you're going to have your sex bolt and your machine bolt for the armature or the strike. You'll have some other components here, and we're going to go over those as we get into the installation instructions. And the only other thing that's included is this MOV. The MOV, that is intended to absorb inductive kickback. So when you are turning that from the energized condition to the de-energized condition, what the factory is saying is, to install this, please install the MOV across your common and normally closed terminals or common and normally open terminals as appropriate. And what this is meant to do is to absorb that harsh movement of the coil being completely energized to being zero energized. Okay? And based on what the factory has told me, it's meant for that. Admittedly, the factory has also said they know that they're not installed every single time. But this was clearly installed during a UL test. So the way that it was tested was with this installed, the absorbing, the inductive kickback absorber, so to speak, whatever the proper electrical term for that is. But that's what they want to see. After that, there is some thread lock. I would certainly recommend using thread lock everywhere. You're just going to nip the tip of that open and squirt that on your bolts. Most definitely for the 2 bolts for the body and then the bolt holding the armature in. Now, admittedly, as I had said earlier, this is a discontinued model. I do have some archival catalog information I can tell you that it's auto sensing. This will run on either 12 or 24 volt. You don't need to worry about what it is. The coil will handle either condition that you bring to it. Let's switch to the screen view and let's look at all the supporting information. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, here is the item that we are looking at. Let's first take a look at some images that we have. Maglock, there's the face, there's the label on the box. There's the contents of the box, your arrestor, screw package, your thread lock, strike, Maglock. The label that's there. The face of the Maglock, showing the bolts, or the preparation of the face for the bolts, I should say. Profile view. The wires, you've got red and black for power, white is common, green and orange for normally closed or normally open. The strike or the armature, and then the accessories, including the installation instructions that were packed with this. Okay, now let's take a look at the cut sheet that's down below. A single page document that shows us an overview of this M34 magnet. Now I don't know the year of this document, but I believe it to be pre-2012, and I say that because it's I know it's pre-2012 because the M34 is not in my 2012 catalog. So here's what you're looking at. Now the M34 here, this is just going to be a straight M34 that you see drawn here. Well, again, if you needed to take this body and mount it to the face of the door, if you needed to mount it to the face, you're going to need bolts through the face. Now, there's also a link below this video to the product catalog, which is the same document that I'm currently in, just 17 pages worth of Maglocks from Securitron. So Senstt is a term that they have in here. It's a marketing term. And I don't know if it's going to be defined in the product catalog. It ought to be. Yeah, sure it is. Senstt. The Senstt option provides a lock status sensing signal which positively indicates that the door is secure. This interfaces with access control or alarm systems and is superior to the commonly used door position switch, which indicates that the door is closed, but not that it is secure. All Senstt Maglocks use a Form C switch. Okay, Form C just means a single pole double throw. Why is it superior? Well, it's superior because it's completely concealed. Nobody knows that you have a door position switch over the opening. You couldn't tell at all whether or not. It's also superior because it tells you two things. It has to be in the door must be in the closed position for this to work, and it will report back by changing the state of the Form C switch that it's secured, that you have a magnetic bond. So it gives you both a door position switch and a magnetic bond sensor as well. So it's a two-in-one sort of situation. Would be why I would imagine they are going to call it superior. Okay. Now we also have the template. This is packaged in the box. I couldn't find this online anywhere, but anyone looking in the future will find it. Full-size paper template. That's going to allow you to apply that right to the opening, right to the header. Okay, so we have that template there for you to review. They're going to want a 3/8 diameter wire hole right there. .5/16 hole through Z-bracket for slab base with the T-nut. Yeah, okay, we've got that. Now, installation instructions, here they are as well. What is supplied does not specifically refer to the M34 face mount. But we'll scroll through here and pick out the important components, concepts. Here's a great way to look at a standard unit, how it mounts. That's obviously mounted on the push side of the opening. Well, if you need to flip that around, and by the way, the other components that I didn't draw your attention to earlier, those washers are in there. Those bushings are there with these roll pins. And the roll pins are going to fit into the back side of the armature. On the back side of this, it has a couple of small holes that are drilled. Those roll pins are going to fit in there. A couple of rubber washers. And there is this bushing as well that's there underneath the bolt. You know, you have a lot of force. When the unit is energized and the door comes to the closed position, it's going to grab that magnet. Those rubber washers are there to help deaden all of that. So these two bushings, the riv nuts, pardon me, the roll pins, this bushing, this male bolt, then the female sex bolt really is what it is. The rest of that's all in the package. There are a couple of washers here as well. Small zinc dichromate washers. I don't, at this moment, know where those go. I'm pretty convinced that, yeah, okay, that's probably where they're going to go. Let's take a look. Yeah, there it is. That's exactly where they go. These gold washers go underneath the head. When we're doing the face mount, which is right here, basically. Nope, that's not the face mount. In swinging door. So they show a 32F. What they're not showing us here are the bolts that go through. Well, the washer, this gold washer, will go underneath the head of the unit. Coming back up to where we were, here's the tool to collapse the blind nuts, or riv nuts they call them. This is an outswinging application, not what we're doing. They're showing this because if you have a very narrow frame, there is a header bracket that can be ordered and installed to accommodate this very narrow jam depth. Now our face dimension, a 62F, this will serve to help us understand what we're installing. Those rubber washers go back here. And I think what they're allowing us to have with this design here, it's going to be secured through that with that bolt. Well, the door closes at an angle to the face of the magnet. So having this, these roll pins and these bushings installed prevents any sort of rotational force from making that unit rotate over time. Those roll pins are going to need to be there to not only allow that, the rubber washers will allow that to pivot on its axis ever so slightly, but keep it from rotating. That's the last thing you'd want, for the thing to no longer be exactly parallel to the face of the magnet, because the problem is going to be you'll lose your holding force at that point. And this shows, this is really the installation that you're doing. This client did not order a Z bracket. You know, maybe they're doing some application where there's a custom gate that they've built and they've incorporated a Z bracket into their design. But there you go. And I'm just going to scan through here. This is great because it shows us those roll pins installed. The bushing, the washers, the roll pins, all of this is here. This is for a glass door installation, but it's there as well. Double magnets, we can skip through that. There's an example of something custom that you're doing for a gate application. This would be exactly perfect for a face mount. in a gate application. Obviously not exterior, but if you're doing, you know, manufacturing and you have machinery that needs to be secured down so that access just isn't open to it, you'd have a custom gate. You know, is where you might see that. That's your face mount. Okay, now getting down to the end of this, electrical characteristics of the unit tells you, this is obviously very important to know how many milliamps you're going to pull based on your voltage. As voltage goes up, milliamps go down. That's just E equals I times R. That's simple, basic electrical theory. 24 volts I imagine would be more common, but telephone systems are very commonly, or alarm systems are 12 volt. And what I want to get to is the wiring diagram. This is important to know. People ask, how far away can my power supply be? Well, that's got everything to do with the gauge of the wires. An electrical circuit has 4 components: the switch, the load, the power supply, and the conductor. The bigger, thicker conductor you go with, the more it can conduct. Friction goes down as the gauge of the wire goes up, so be mindful. This is your maximum distance. What will happen is you won't get adequate voltage, which will translate to the unit not working, working intermittently, or working at a substantially reduced holding force. And I never really did mention what this holding force is. I'm quite sure it's 600 pounds. That is definitely an oversight. Yeah, 600 pounds is what we're dealing with. And when it comes to Maglocks, you know, that's one of the first questions. That is possible. Well, what's the application, and then how many pounds of force do you need? 600 is certainly typical, but not appropriate for much higher security needs where you'd have over 1,000 pounds. Here's the definition again of Senstt. I won't read that again, except to say the SC Maglock provides a dry single pole double throw output which changes state when the lock is reporting secure. 1 amp at 30 volt DC maximum. This is accomplished, that meaning the switch is rated for no more than 1 amp to go through it. We just discussed that. We looked at our amperage requirements. I mean, you're a third of an amp in 12 volt. You're less than a fifth of an amp in 24 volt, or a quarter amp. No, you're a fifth of an amp, or a third of an amp, basically. So be mindful that switch is rated for up to 1 amp. This is accomplished by conducting the input power of the lock through the strike and employing it to energize an internal relay. Right. And that's what you're, with that absorbing the inductive kickback, you're looking to help preserve the life of the relay that's inside of here, or of the switch. The white wire is the common. Green is normally closed to white when the lock is secure. Orange is closed to white when the lock is not secure. So here's your wiring diagram of that. Basically what this switch does is, when you take it out of the box, it's going to be normally closed. When you wire this up and close the door, that's going to throw that switch to normally open. So that means that when the door is opened, it's going to fail closed, which means it will complete a circuit. So, and you know, you can wire that, you know, the opposite orientation as well. White and green wires provide isolated closure when the lock is secure. White and green. Not secure. I think I just said that backwards. So this may be showing when the unit is in the open position, when the door's in the closed and energized position. Yeah, so I would say that this is normally open, so that when you close the door, you'll have continuity of the circuit by means of the white and green wires. White and green wires provide isolated closure when the lock is secure. So when you take it out of the box, it's going to be normally open. You close the door, this leg will fall to the green, giving you continuity in your circuit. And that's the wiring. You know, you've got your red and black to your power supply. You've got your other 3 wires coming out of the unit, and that's going to go back to whatever that Senstt Form C switch is reporting to. Access control, you know, computer software. Maybe it's, you know, an annunciator. Maybe it's a LED light. Something's happening when that changes state, assuming that you're installing it to begin with. You may not be. You might just be doing simple on-off. And then in that case, you would tie those 3 wires off because you wouldn't use those at all. More wiring should you have a double door, etc. Now, there is a link below this video, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page. From here, you can pull up not only all of the Securitron products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the current product catalog. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, so that really wraps up talking about this magnet. At this point, all you're going to want to do is power it up and probably run it through its paces, so to speak. Make sure that it works. I can tell you that I've called the manufacturer twice today, and both times the gentleman there was extremely helpful, which actually runs through the entire ASA Abloy family of properties. Tech support is always extremely helpful there. And quite frankly, it's a reason that you consider ASA companies like Securitron, Adams Wright, Hess, Folger, Adam, Sargent, Yale, Corbin, Russwin, Rockwood, Pemco. They're very strong when it comes to tech support. And, you know, absorbing an inductive kickback, you know, there are times when you just need to have someone tell you what the part is for. I didn't know what that... I knew what it was for, but I didn't know exactly what it was for. And sometimes you just need help, and they've always been exceptional. And to them, for that, I say thank you. Any questions on that M34? It's probably going to be long gone by the time you're seeing this video, but nonetheless, we've archived the data. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.